want to play football.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sacred Saturdays podcast. My name is Tony Casolo, one of the owners, one of the brethren, one of your favorite people when it comes to college football. And to my right is my brother, Justin Casolo. Give him a shout out, Juice. What are you doing tonight?
Watching the Philadelphia Eagles play the Dallas Cowboys currently.
We were kind of talking just before the thing started. I know this is supposed to be dedicated to college football, and I think this speaks to how we feel about pro football, but I had no idea the game was on until about 5 minutes ago.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Oh, man. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, Juice. You know, what teams are you really watching in college football today? You know, who are your teams that hold that special place in your heart, and who might be some teams that you just really hate?
Oh, special place in my heart. The Florida Gators. I just got to go off top. Florida Gators. I've got a gator in my house, a tiny silver gator sitting in the corner looking at me right now. Tim Tebow, Percy Harvin, Carlos Dunlap, Brandon Spikes. Those 08 Gators teams were just disgusting, just terrifying, and just so fun to watch. So much speed. I fell in love with college football in the 90s, and that was Florida State, Miami, and Florida dominating the landscape. So those three teams, special place in my heart. Colorado Buffs, obviously, Colorado Buffs. One of the greatest traditions in sports, running behind Ralphie. I heard Ralphie got retired because she doesn't want to run this latest.
Yeah, it's true. You could see it. It was kind of just a taboo topic within Buff's Twitter land. But yeah, she didn't want to run. So Ember did need to be retired, and I'm excited to see what the next Ralphie will bring to the field.
I love that. I love that she just got cut because she doesn't care about running on the field.
Nah, she didn't make it to about the 40, and then she was like, I'm good.
That's a great tradition. And then UNLV Rebel right here, proud running Rebel. And UNLV's program is about to pop. I just really believe that. I think there's things in place that could see UNLV football in a 5 to 10 year period be an absolute top 10, top 15 program in college football. And as a Rebel, you know, UNLV has had historically maybe one of the 10 worst college football programs in history.
Yeah, they've had a pretty rough go of it.
It's just a terrible football program. And I say that with all love in my heart. But now what's in place with Dan Mullen, great coach. Florida should have never fired Dan Mullen, in my opinion. Great coach. The infrastructure's there too. Facilities, great city. Yeah, UNLV, if they can, I mean, they have a path to the playoff. They got to start tapping into the Bishop Gorman pipeline here in Las Vegas. And yeah, UNLV is one that is poised to make some noise in the next few years.
Absolutely. And when you take a look at things that make a college football program, you got to start at the stadium. And there's not a better facility than Allegiant. You know, I've been inside of it. I did some coverage for the Colorado Buffaloes. We did the Big 12 media days there last year. And to actually be on the field and see the insides of that stadium, it's a sight to behold.
Yeah, no doubt.
So for those of you that don't know me, I am born and raised in Colorado. Juice was obviously raised here as well, but moved out west to go to UNLV. But I am a proud Colorado Buffalo, graduated there from 2010. And like I said, I actually covered them as a professional media member for a couple of years and got to see the rise of Prime. And let me tell you, that has completely turned. Talk about turning programs on their heads, bringing in Dan Mullen. I don't think there's been a bigger rift in college football since the emergence of Coach Prime. What do you think, Juice?
It's well said, man. Yeah, he's an absolute lightning rod. And it's funny to me. I think he catches so much flack, and in our world today, I don't think people can tell the truth from what's not the truth. And Deion Sanders is the truth. Deion Sanders is the truth and has been in everything he's done. So yeah, he's gonna do big things too. I'm excited to see what happens. I like.
Yeah, it's actually, it's kind of cool. And you talk about speaking the truth. It's one of the first things I always noticed when I used to be in those press conferences is he was the exact same person off the camera that he was on the camera. He'd come in and say hi to us. We would kind of chat for a little bit, and then everyone would get into the motion of starting to ask questions and get into the flow of it. But I don't think people believe it, but he is an absolute genuine person, and it's pretty cool to see.
Sure.
So we've had 2 weeks of college football already, Juice. And, the Buffs obviously didn't start out very well. That obviously stood out to me as a local boy. It was disappointing, especially to see the ending of that game. But what were some things that stood out to you to the first couple of weeks of the season?
I didn't watch as intently as I would have liked on Saturday. It's like the first college football Saturday that I wasn't just a fanatic all day long. I had the games on, but I was elsewhere for sure. And I think Lee Corso leaving the game messed me up. I'm like, how do we proceed from here?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we proceed from here? I really don't know what to do. With it feels like a huge hole for the game. And so I think that kind of tainted my opening weekend a bit to paying attention to the games. LSU, I guess, pops into my mind. I'm impressed by what they did. That was one game I did get to see a little bit of. That fourth quarter and some of the second half of the third quarter, they look complete. That LSU football team looks complete. And I think they're going to be poised for some big things. I'm excited about my Gators. That performance, I mean, they played a layup, but still excited about it. What about you?
Speaking just on the Lee Corso thing, you got my mind running because we had sent memes kind of back and forth and just kind of sharing special moments from him in the history. And one of the memes that I had sent you was a couple of scenes from The Simpsons. And you see one where it's Homer as a kid sitting in front of it, and it was Lee from like 1996 doing the first hat pick. And then you see Homer as an adult sitting down, and it's nowadays. And I think you're right. Like I didn't expect myself to be so emotional about him actually leaving the game. And I was it's funny, we go to the gym. Juice is one of the best trainers you'll ever run into, and he is my trainer. But I was made sure I was early morning at the gym, and I was watching the beginning of College Game Day while I'm on the treadmill, and I had a tough time. I had a tough time getting over it. It's going to be hard to move on to the game without him.
Yeah, I wonder what the network's going to really do. I mean, anybody that's a college football fan, that's the start of the day. And so when that culminated, it was like, what? This is, I don't know. The Ohio State-Texas game, I did tune in for that, obviously, and I was pulling for Arch for sure, put money on Texas money line. But we talked about this too. That would not shock me at all if Bucks Longhorns is the game to end the season.
You did talk about that. Oh, go ahead.
That would not surprise me at all if we're at the end of the year and we're saying, oh, Texas, Ohio State. And I would lean Texas in that instance because Ohio State won the game, but Texas was on the door, knocking on the door multiple times. And that was the same thing last year. I feel like Texas is right there. They just need to make the play. And the whole Arch stuff, I was already annoyed because there's nothing he could do to impress people. So I already had that kind of feeling. Like I was watching the game just clenched up a bit. I just wanted to see him do well, and he didn't. But Arch is going to ball. Some of the throws he made in the fourth quarter, it was like, holy cow, that is a cannon.
Yeah, and I think you actually make a perfect segue for what we wanted to talk about next, was just kind of general overreactions. Because you know as well as I do that anytime you get into a football season, people will make prescriptions and write off teams or crown teams based on one performance. And obviously, the guy that's going to be at the centerpiece of that this week was Arch Manning. And I know this is probably going to piss off a lot of a lot of Buffalo's Twitter if they watch this first episode of our show, but it really kind of amused me after watching for 2-3 years them defend to the death a quarterback that most people were saying was being overhyped because of his last name, to see them then turn around and start trashing a guy who they said was overhyped because of his last name. It's a very weird argument to live in both spaces. Now, I'm a guy that wanted well for both Shedeur Sanders and Arch Manning, which you can live in both of those worlds. You don't have to dump on one and praise the other.
Sure.
What other general overreactions do you think we see out of week one besides the Arch Manning debacle, you would say?
I love how I'm an SEC fan. I'm a bandwagon fan. I like the Florida teams in the 90s. I like the SEC when it got good. Sue me. I like watching NFL talent. I can't wait to watch Bryce Underwood versus Oklahoma. That's like the only game I care about. I want to see Bryce Underwood. I want to see the Dogs. So the SEC, everybody's always saying the SEC's dead. And it's just like, come on. No way. I still think top to bottom, that's the best league. A lot of people are saying Big Ten. Sure, they've got the last two natties. Sure. But is the SEC right there? Teams 7 through 10? Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to that. LSU, I know I just said that earlier, but something about LSU seems special to me. And yeah, so the SEC is dead. That's
the one. Yeah, it's funny to talk about because you saw obviously the big spotlight was on Texas, Ohio State. So I think a lot of people are going to make assumptions based on that game. But I think you touched on a bunch of them, and some of the other ones I want to highlight. You mentioned Florida. You mentioned LSU. South Carolina looked really good against a very tough Virginia Tech opponent. That was one. Again, you guys will get to know me. That is a team that I hold in my heart for some strange reason. I just love the Virginia Tech Hokies. But they played South Carolina really well, and that is a tough week one opponent. So, you kind of see there is that depth to the conference, but this is a point that I've texted you during Saturday. It is very apparent to me, while I think the SEC still holds the crown, the other conferences have caught up. And I think the Big Ten, while hasn't eclipsed them yet, can make a really good argument for being the best conference in the nation.
Sure. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I agree. I do think the Big Ten is definitely caught up, obviously. But yeah, I think just the there's always the attack on the big dog, and that's kind of how it felt with the SEC. But I agree with you, man. Some of those Big Ten teams, Oregon is going to be really good. Michigan, that's a big test. If Michigan can go down to Norman this week and pull out a win in Norman, because that place is going to be on fire. It's going to be absolutely on fire down there. So that should be a big test and interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into that, and I loved you looking ahead. You see that kind of game, Michigan going to Oklahoma, and Michigan obviously took a step back last year, but they were able to bring in a guy like a Bryce Underwood. I think the top quarterback in the nation, correct? Yep, number one quarterback in the nation. And you see Oklahoma took a step back last year as well. But both of those teams are primed for big seasons this year, potentially. And I'm looking at it now. I'm only seeing a 5.5-point line favoring Oklahoma, which they get a team like Michigan there, and it's less than a touchdown. It's going to be a close game for college football, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna bet Michigan. I think Michigan's I could see them going in there and doing, or maybe that's just hopeful thinking. I just want to see them do that. We'll see.
I got you. And I mean, Michigan's always a team that they're going to have a good defense. They're going to have a good line play. You and I both know that is one of the most important things in football that people never pay attention to. But the state of the line, Big Ten teams are going to have great offensive and defensive lines. I think it's going to be a great early season test for both teams and should kind of get the same spotlight that Texas Ohio State got.
Yeah. Yeah, we shall see. Bryce Underwood, I just can't wait to see that. This dude looks like a Vince Young reincarnation, so I can't wait to see it.
Okay, I'm looking at the schedule here. I'm going to throw a couple of games at you and just kind of get your overall impression of what you think could happen. Okay? And for those of you that are following us for the first time, we are big sports bettors. Juice obviously lives in Las Vegas, so he's very close to it. But, I obviously live in Colorado, so I'm able to do quite a bit of sports betting myself. So I'm going to talk about a few of these lines. Maybe we could talk and see which ones we'd actually like to lay some money on. You okay with that? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing Iowa plays Iowa State, and Iowa State is a 3.5-point favorite. And I believe that is in Ames.
Man, what a cool early season matchup. Man, oh man. Iowa State deserves a gold medal for playing that game in Ireland, coming back home, playing against a tough FBS school.
If you play one of the –
and now they've got a rivalry game.
If you play one of the Dakotas, you're going to have a tough time.
Yeah, that is crazy. Hats off to that crew. Iowa always seems to pull it out against Iowa State. It's just interesting, but maybe this is the year for the Cyclones. What's your gauge?
I kind of went into the season thinking that Iowa State was going to take a step back. Obviously, last year was the first time in program history they ever won 10 or more games. And I thought they were kind of primed for a step back. We had seen teams like this in the past. Brock Purdy's teams come to mind where they were highly rated coming into the season and just couldn't kind of live up to the hype. I agree with you. I think they've taken a step forward. I think if they can run this early season gauntlet, and their non-conference schedule has been terribly tough, but if they can run this and actually bite Iowa, they could be looking at a potential playoff run. I really believe that about them.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me at all to see them in the Big 12 title game.
Now we got an ACC and a Baylor matchup. So ACC and Big 12 matchup. We have Baylor heading to Dallas to face number 17 SMU, and SMU is favored by 2.5 points.
That's another two teams that are going to want to beat each other. Two Texas schools close by to each other. There's going to be some animosity, and think of the crowd too. Southern Millionaires University and a bunch of kids from Waco. That's a recipe for disaster. With just so that's going to be a tense showdown. What time is that?
Let me see here. That is a 10 a.m. kickoff, so 9 o'clock on the West Coast. So it's right early in the morning.
Is it in Dallas or in
Dallas.
Waco?
So it's an SMU home game.
Southern Millionaires University Avenue. That's going to be fun. That is going to be
well. You look at like a Baylor squad. I was honestly kind of surprised at let's say the lack of urgency I saw out of Baylor against Auburn. Obviously a 14 points game in week 1. I did not expect that. Baylor was a very good team last year. Yeah. And it just seemed like they weren't firing on all cylinders. So I kind of like SMU in that game because SMU, has all of their players returning. Most of the talent that they had from last season's run. I think I'd lay some money on SMU to cover there. That'd be the way that I would go.
Yeah. I hope that's what happens too. You asked the question earlier. Teams we dislike. And Baylor is definitely just a random team.
I'll go ahead and match you on that one because I will never forgive them for trying to push CU out of the Pac-12. When that whole thing was going on with the mega conference and all them trying to spout off and saying that CU didn't deserve to be there, no matter how bad CU was when I was actually there as a student, I will never forgive them for those problems.
Yeah, I like Dave Aranda, that coach, but
actually do too. Yeah.
So I'm definitely pulling for SMU. I'm definitely pulling for SMU, and yeah, I would do the 3.5. You said 3.5 or 3?
2.5.
2.5. 2.5.
I think CU wins close as a call out for Lee Corso there. This is one that I am going to tell you I am scared of. I agree with you on my fandom of Florida, and I think they have a much tougher matchup against South Florida than the 17.5-point spread that shows there.
Dude, yeah. I'm real scared of that game, man. I'm real scared of that game. Like, Florida absolutely has to have this game. But they absolutely – I think South Florida, they're in the American
That's
Conference,
correct, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they have to have it too. I mean, if they want to be a playoff team. I was shocked the way they handled Boise State. I was absolutely shocked the way they just beat the hell out of Boise State. So, and then I think South Florida plays Miami the following week.
Let's check that. I will bring them.
So Miami's got a test.
They do.
Them.
Number 5 Miami. Week after.
So yeah, big game down there, and that's South Florida's Super Bowl. They've had that game circled their entire offseason.
Absolutely.
It's in Tampa or
it is in Gainesville? Yep.
That's good. But yeah, I hear you on the 16 and
I think even as a Florida fan, I think I would be betting South Florida and taking the 17.5 points for sure. And what you see out of it, you see a low point total. It's only 55.5, which would indicate to me that it's going to be a low scoring game. And if that's the case, they usually tend to be close games. That's kind of how I just look at it as a guy that's betting a lot of games. That could be a really tough one. Let's go here. Let's go in an early season SEC matchup. Okay. Ole Miss, number 20 Ole Miss, has to go on the road and face Kentucky and is laying down 8.5 points.
Yeah, Ole Miss is going to want that one bad. That's the game that cost them a playoff spot last year. And Mark Stoops has got a good program there. Man, that is one I don't know. I would maybe stay away from that one personally. What do you
It's
think
tough to get a gauge on it because most people look at Kentucky and think basketball school, but they've had some really good football teams, and they tend to play some of those Midland-ranked SEC teams very tough. So I agree with you. I think that's a scary one, and if gun to my head, I might almost take Kentucky on the points. But I think your overall impression of just kind of staying away from it is a good thought.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch that one personally.
And then the last one we're going to look at here is the one that you talked about earlier. It is number 15 Michigan going on the road to face number 18 Oklahoma with a 5.5 point spread and only a 45.5 point total.
24-20 kind of game. Yeah, it's going to be a tight one. I think who can avoid the mistakes is going to be the whole name of the game. If Bryce can come in and take control, and I think he's going to have to weather an early storm. OU if that, because Norman's hungry too. They had a really poor year last year, so Oklahoma is going to be just chomping at the bit for this one. This could send their season on a whole nother trajectory, winning this one. But something in me just believes in Bryce Underwood. I think it's going to be maybe a special night, and he makes a big play that is just kind of shocking. That's what I am at least hoping happens.
Yeah, and he,
as somebody who's a Michigan fan and pulling for Bryce, that's what I'm looking to see. So
absolutely. He was able to manage the game really well. I think I'm seeing here he went 21 of 31 with a touchdown. Wasn't really tested against New Mexico, so it'll definitely be a step up in competition. But I think you're right. I think he just has the makeup in order to go in and make plays right away. So I like Michigan in the points. I think that's a safe bet. I really do, especially when you're getting 5.5 for a team like Michigan. I think it's
definitely. I mean, Michigan could go win that football game. There's no question about it. Michigan could go down there and win the game. So 5.5 points is, I think, a pretty good line.
Okay. I like that. So we're going to switch up here just a little bit. if any of you guys have been following us on our socials, and if you guys would like to follow us, I will put this down here at the bottom. But you can follow us on X, Instagram, and TikTok. It would be Sacred Saturdays on X and Sacred.Saturdays on Instagram and TikTok. One of the things that we've been posting on there is we've gone position by position, and we've pointed out who we believe has had the best game, best season, and best career at each position. Which one of those has stood out to you, or which one was your favorite to kind of talk about when we were having our background discussions here?
I think the quarterback one is a pretty neat one. Yeah, some of those moments that those athletes created, definitely.
So for those guys that want to go see the post, the ones that we pointed out there for the quarterbacks, the best game, I think it's a no-brainer when we talk about it. It's the best football game I've ever witnessed in my life, and I just happened to be watching it with you. But it is the 05 Rose Bowl and the performance that Vince Young put up against USC. Obviously, you guys saw the game-winning touchdown in our intro there. But I don't think any quarterback has been able to touch that kind of performance on the field. When we talk about best season, Cam Newton. What can you say about Cam Newton? What was the stat that you were telling me about how many guys got drafted off of that offense?
There's, I think, only one. I think a tackle.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and he has an interesting name. Like, it's not coming to me, but I think their right tackle was the only other offensive player that played in the NFL.
Yeah.
And then for best career, I mean, it has to be Tim Tebow. You know, we talked about it talked about that's why we love the game. We grew up watching that guy lead teams onto the field. It's just impressive to see what he was able to do, not only on the field, but off the field too. And that speech that he had after losing to Ole Miss and getting that team fired up and saying, you know, you'll never see a team play as harder team play as harder as we can. God bless, and walks off. I mean, that's one of the best mic drop moments, and you don't usually hear it after a God bless, which is just great. Totally. I think one of my favorite positions, and I had a lot of fun just doing the research on it, but it was when we were talking about safeties. Obviously, you know, I love the cornerback discussions because there was a bunch of Buffalo's representation from our picks. Our best game performance was Travis Hunter, and our best career was Coach Prime. But when we were talking about safeties, the one that I kept pushing for when it was best career, we kept talking about Al Broski. And most people would be like, who the hell are you talking about when you're talking about Al Broski? Al Broski is the career NCAA leader in career interceptions. And it's one of the things that we talked about. I think it's such a stupid thing for the sport to do. But he had a streak of 15 games, still the longest streak in NCAA history, of picking off a pass. Except it was actually 16 games because he picked off one in the 1952 Rose Bowl as well. But that doesn't count. What do you think about that?
I just love that all that stuff. His name's Al Broski. 1952 Rose Bowl. Like, this sounds like a model American.
You see the picture, and he's doing this with the leather helmet, no face mask. It's just beautiful.
That's a great one.
All right, Juice, what do you want to tell the people before we head out for tonight?
College football is a great sport. I think I love it more than pro football for years now. It's just so special. I was watching the Georgia Tech Colorado game, and the punt returner comes out early in the game for Georgia Tech, and he's got on like a fucking trash bag for a jersey. Like, it was like a hoodie, like just 10 sizes too big, and he fields the punt and like gets tackled by just gets ripped down by his jersey, and like only in college football would you see some shit like that. Like, you're just not going to see that in pro football, and it's just so fun to watch, and all the teams, and we love the game. So excited to have had the conversation with you, and
awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We will be uploading as much as we can, trying to get this out to you guys hopefully every Friday morning. But until then, go Broncos, go Buffs, go Rebels, and we'll see you next time. Go
Go
Gators!
Gators!